Hi, I'm Father Joseph Mary, and we're welcome back to Ask a Capuchin, where we answer questions on the Catholic faith and the Capuchin Franciscans. Our first question today is from Patty Holly. What is the origin story behind the Capuchin Crypt in Rome? Well, for those of you who don't know, there's a 17th century church in Rome called Santa Maria della Concesione del Cappuccini, or, and I don't know if that's correct Italian, but in English it's Our Lady of the Conception of the Capuchins. And beneath this church is a centuries-old Capuchin crypt, often referred to by people as the Bone Church. It has 6 chambers, like small chapels containing nearly 4,000 bodies belonging to deceased Capuchin friars. And the bones are arranged throughout the chapels in sculptures and mosaic-like displays of flowers and geometric shapes and various religious symbols. The crypts also have various names, like the Crypt of the Skulls, the Crypt of the Leg Bones, and the Crypt of the Pelvises, etc., etc. Some of the skeletons are actually still wearing their full habits. And what most people remember most about the crypt is the plaque alongside the skeletal remains of a friar, which reads, "What you are now, we once were, and what we are now, you shall be." The crypt is a huge destination for pilgrims and tourists and the curious, and includes such famous visitors as Mark Twain and the Marquis de Sade, both of whom would later write about the crypt in their experiences there. But the question is, how did all of this get started? Well, in 1631, the Capuchin friars relocated to their current friary on Via Veneto from their old one, which was near Trevi Fountain. And the Vatican ordered them to also take with them the remains of their deceased brothers. So, they arrived with cartloads of skeletal remains, as many as 300 to 400 cartloads of bones. Following their relocation, the friars then went on to construct the crypt. Father Michael of Bergamo oversaw the arrangement of the bones in the burial crypt. Now, it's alleged that the soil in the crypt was actually brought from Jerusalem by order of Pope Urban VIII, and it was designed initially as a place of reflection and prayer, and the chapels within the crypt are actually bone-free. As monks died throughout the years, throughout the lifetime of the crypt, the longest buried monk was exhumed to make room for the newly deceased friar, who was then buried in the ground without a coffin, and the newly exhumed reclaimed bones were then added to the existing bone decorations. So usually bodies spent about 30 years decomposing in the ground before they were ever exhumed. That's all the history that I've ever heard of the Capuchin Bone Church. I had an opportunity to visit there 2 summers ago, and I guess the question many viewers today might have is, why would the Capuchins ever build something like this? And I think a lot of that has to do with kind of our modern sensibilities. We don't like to talk about death or even to talk about aging. We tend to hide those things. So if you look at movies or television or ads, they're always beautiful young people. We many times put our elderly in nursing homes or elder care facilities. And we tend to try to put out of mind what's uncomfortable for us. That wasn't so with the medieval mind. They were very cognizant of death. In fact, death was all around them. People died much younger. There were plagues and illnesses and sickness. It was very common for children to die during childbirth. And so death was a constant companion. And for the friars, it was a constant reminder that our life here is short. Right? It fades like a flower. But ultimately, we're preparing for eternity. And so when we look at it, we can't look at it through our modern lens. We have to try to appreciate it with the intention that they had, to remind them of what St. Francis said, that death is nothing to be feared. Right? Sister death is ultimately what leads us to Christ.